And good morning. It's 6:30. It's Tuesday morning. How do you feel? It's chilly right now. We're waking up to 39, expecting a summertime day of 72. It'll be great weather, but as we begin this day, we'll go ahead and approach what's going on outside as we go to radar this morning as we pull up Doc's Toyota radar. Look at this. It is thick fog throughout the area as we pull this up to take a look. As we look at the Meridian area, you'll see the western side of Lauderdale County extending. It gets really thick here as we get down to Stuckey's Bridge, Dunn's Fall, into Clark County. Look at the west side of here, all the way down. It was thicker earlier, believe it or not. Some very thick areas there around Jones Junior College and as you enter Jackson as well. Now, all of this yellow is just is thick as well. Hard to see up Highway 39 if you're in that area, and I-20. Be careful. School buses are rolling this morning. Even these areas that are covered in gray this morning are under a dense fog advisory through 10 a.m. So just because it's not showing it on radar doesn't mean it doesn't have light to moderate fog where you are, making it hard to see. Over to Grove Hill, Thomasville, Alabama, Butler, those areas have it as well. Just a little bit thicker as you get to that southwest corner of Newton County, Lauderdale County, and on into Clark County there on the western side. Most of Jasper County, again, hard to see today. We've got a complete weather forecast coming up in a moment as we begin this adventure today. I hope you're feeling well and everything is going your way so far. But again, from where we are right now at 39 degrees, it's nippy. It's not bad cold. The wind isn't blowing like it normally does. Kind of nice outside, but will be summertime weather, 72 before it's all said and done this afternoon with sunshine. Looking forward to that. All right, let's go get a good word before we get into some headlines that are shaping your America. We'll do that next.
One of the things I've realized over years of ministry is that the longer you stay at one place, the more you're going to see that some people just stand out in the faith. Some people just shine. You don't just see them at church all the time. You see them working. You see them joining in with others, getting things done, and you see them step up when things get difficult, and they want to get to good resolutions and promote unity. Some folks just stand out. They're not perfect, but it just seems like they get it when it comes to living for God and serving. Paul saw this in the church at Thessalonica. Listen to what he says about them in 1 Thessalonians 1, verses 2 and 3. He says, "We always thank God for you, mentioning you in our prayers. We continually remember before our God and Father your work produced by faith, your labor prompted by love, and your endurance inspired by hope in our Lord Jesus Christ." These weren't Christians who were just going through the motions. These people stood out in the faith. These were Christians whose faith produced their work, who were doing work out of love for God and others, and who endured hardships because of their hope in Christ. Think about how strong and healthy our churches can be if more and more of God's people lived out their faith this way. Not for a pat on the back or to be recognized, but simply because faith in the Lord Jesus Christ has changed them and they want to live it out, reflecting these great virtues of faith, hope, and love. Would to God that we could live out our faith in such a way that it just stands out. Change begins in you.
The Change Begins in You is brought to you in part by Piggly Wiggly of Collinsville, Patrick Allen Companies, Mitchell Tire and Wrecker in Collinsville, and Mowdy Cabinetry. A lot of folks up and at 'em today. What was it Arnold said? So good he couldn't hardly stand it. I hope your world is going that well for you as well. I was out late last night. We'll talk about that here coming up at the morning show at 7 o'clock as the candidates for mayor of Meridian all gathered at a local church and they were given 10 minutes to talk. We'll get into that beginning at 7 as Odie gets to join us today. Don't forget, the Pancake Jubilee is going on today. The 78th annual Temple Ballroom is where they're at. A lot of pancakes, and that'll be going through 7 p.m. Breakfast, lunch, or dinner, whichever you can squeeze in to get down. It goes to great causes throughout our area. All these charities that the Downtown Optimist Club funds comes from this event. We do appreciate anything that you can do to go by and get you a pancake lunch. Do that, or breakfast, however you want to do that. You ever read a headline and you go, that just doesn't make sense to me? Well, there's a lot of times there's more to the story than meets the eye. And I think we're heading on this. As we all know, wars have been fought over women, haven't they? Well, the influence is what I mean by that. And we all know that the power of a wife is pretty strong, isn't it? She can lean on a husband and usually get him to do what he wants, which leads us to our headline. Have you seen where the federal judge has blocked ICE raids? He worked for Obama. Y'all know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. His wife is a far-left opens border activist who is funded by George Soros. Now, if you were to add 2 and 2 together, you would probably get 4, wouldn't you? Thought you might want to know that. This is what we're seeing with the polls on this. A lot of people don't like it, but the vast majority of Americans do, and that's why I bring this up. Right now, 58% of Americans approve of what Trump's doing over Biden. 58%. That's pretty strong. 76% support eliminating fraud, waste. 76%. That is strong. I want to say the number is 72% that believe in Doge. 72%. That's strong. 76 support closing the U.S. border. And 70% of Americans support being hired on your merit. It's amazing, isn't it? That's way over half of Americans there as we look at all those numbers there. Let's get America straight again. And you should be. It doesn't matter your race, your color, what you believe in. If you can do a job and you're really good at it, you should be hired. Not by any other reason or favoritism. But in the past, we've seen what's happened there. Let's hope all that gets straightened out. I can see this happening. I've never been on an international flight. I've spoken to my son who's flown all over the world, and some of those flights are 18 hours, 20 hours, long way from wherever you're coming from. And the worst can happen on a flight. And what I mean by that, someone can be deceased. Well, apparently this happened on a flight, and he's calling it the flight from blank. The passenger next to him passed away. They had nowhere to put the person, and he had to fly for 4 hours with the deceased person next to him. That, in the least, is creepy, isn't it? But again, it's real life. That's what happens along the way in life's journey. Boy, but it doesn't make that any nicer, does it? We see that the polls are showing that. Do you remember the Maine governor who argued with Trump at the table over the border? Do you remember that? She was real high in the polls, and now 49% disapprove of her job. 48% still do, but the numbers have changed. She's 1 point below now. Thought you might want to know that also as we look at that. Keystone Pipeline, when will that return? That's what we're hoping. Trump wants it to fire back up. That would be good. Lots of jobs included with that. We posted this just a little bit ago. I wasn't born when it all happened, when JFK died. I don't even think I was a thought at that point. No, I wasn't. It would be quite a few years before I came along. But the Secret Service agent who attempted to shield JFK is dead at 93 this morning. He's the guy that runs and jumps onto the trunk of the car. We've all watched that video over and over. He's passed away at the age of 93. Let me see here. I think Fox News has got a picture. Here it is. Here's the picture of him climbing onto the back of the Lincoln that day in Dallas. 93 years young. We salute him. He's done his best to get there. We wait to see what those files hold, don't we? Let's see here. Ted Cruz has slapped a subpoena over sheltering migrants at the airport as we get deep into this story. The Massachusetts Port Authority has been sheltering those migrants. They're at Boston Airport. You can't do that. This is a complicated story. And one says this says and that. But as we go to a place in Massachusetts, a local chief of police was giving a tour of his facility into the gym room. On the wall was a Trump flag. A guy that worked for the city, we'll call him the administrator, is on that tour, and he sends him an email as soon as he gets back to his office and says, "You've got to remove that flag." Well, the police chief resisted back and forth. He ended up taking it down, but it's called a riffraff in the town. In the end, the administrator has been relieved of his duties, and the police chief refuses to meet with any of them. It's a big feud going on in the town, and everybody's taking sides. Hope they work that out. Let's see what else we've got going on this morning here. Trump said that they're going to get rid of this. New York City. And it's just a tax after tax. Americans, have you ever really thought about what goes on with your paycheck? You're taxed before you get it. Once you get your check, you're taxed on your groceries. You buy some bubble gum or a cold drink, you're taxed. Your car insurance, then you're taxed on. It's just one tax after another. Your gasoline, you're taxed on. We're taxed. Your land taxes. The list goes on of taxes that keep coming up. If you own a business, they come after you with even more taxes for any item that you've got in your office. We know that. New York City had implemented a new tax on cars driving through New York. Congestion pricing, I think, is what they were calling it. It had been involved 1 month, and it netted $50 million. I think it costs like $10 million a month to operate it, but they're saying they cleared 37. It's supposed to be shut down. I'm telling you, the American worker just can't stand much more, can they? You got to have something left over to provide for your family. Now, there are some that are fortunate to have a great, wonderful job to where they make tons of money. Then there's others who barely get by, but they're still taxed and taxed and taxed just like you are. No matter, it's rough out there. As we go here, Colorado National Park, they're still looking for a guy that's been missing 2 weeks. Again, it's supposed to get summertime, warmer weather, and we'll have more people in these national parks. Be careful. Try not to go alone if you're planning a vacation. Kentucky, we've talked about this several times over the past few weeks. They've had rains and flooding. So far, 21 deaths. That's just awful. We certainly hate that. Yosemite Sam, have y'all seen this picture? They hung on the side of Yosemite Sam, on the side of one of the cliffs, they took a upside-down flag, American flag, and hung it. Of course, meaning distress because of cuts that are coming across America. Not everyone agrees with that. We have to work things out and then revamp things. Oh, and finally, let's talk about this before we go into the weather here in just a moment. March 9th, I believe, is the date. Yeah. Daylight saving time is going to return. Is everybody ready for that? I almost feel like my life will be normal once again. These short days of it getting dark at 4:30 and 5 o'clock are rough, aren't they? Really makes you, well, there's a lot of depression during the winter months. You can't do as much and you're closed inside. It looks like sunshine is coming, and, well, we're looking forward to this warmer weather without a doubt. Speaking of that, we'll get into your forecast here in just a second as we'll tell you all about more of this fog and what to expect with these temperatures this week. Ending February with a blast, aren't we? We'll be right back. Let's face it, accidents are going to happen. If a deer jumps out in front of your car, go see my friends and professionals at Chet's Paint and Body Shop and so you navigate through this confusing world of insurance by providing photo estimates to insurance companies and the right to choose the body shop of your choice. From a minor scratch to a major collision, Chet has you covered. Chet offers quality repairs by trained and certified technicians with a lifetime warranty on all repairs. That's Chet's Paint and Body Shop.
We welcome you to a new vehicle buying experience here at Doc's Toyota. Buying a new vehicle doesn't have to be stressful, but don't just take our word for it.
This was the best experience I've ever had buying a vehicle.
Doc's employees are top-notch.
I drove 2 hours, not once, but twice, to purchase 2 vehicles with a 5-month time frame.
Doc's delivers competitive pricing, a comprehensive selection, and flexible financing options, helping you get on the road from Carthage, Meridian, and beyond. There's a reason why there's no deal like a Doc's deal.
Your forecast is brought to you by EMEPA, your Touchstone Energy Cooperative.
And as we go back to look at our record highs and lows, it was 1918. We had a high of 85 back in 67. Anybody remember that year? That would be, what, some 58 years ago. My, time is flying. It was 20 today, back in 67. As we look at the forecast for today, it's going to be perfect weather. As we look at Meridian holding at 72, through Philadelphia, we should see 71, even up to Columbus, 70, over down the river as we go. Pretty much 70 all the way down to Natchez is what we're looking for. Perfect weather with a partly sunny sky. As we move into Bama, it looks like we'll have 65. This is a little bit older. We didn't get an update from that as we look at this. As we come across to take a look, fog is thick this morning through 10 a.m. We should have this areas of fog. Slow down and use your low beams this morning as you travel about. Now, as we look for this, it's going to be the same tomorrow morning as well. Early fog from about 3 a.m. to 10 a.m. is what we're expecting tomorrow. Again, keep those headlights on low beam as you're out and about as we look at this. As we come across our heat wave moving in from Texas, as you'll see that East Texas has it now coming across Mississippi and Alabama. And our highs for today is we see 72 down to only 44 tonight. We'll see 75 back into the forecast tomorrow. And even leading up to Friday, 68 to 70 by the weekend. It'll be perfect. 73 and Sunday 73 and then back 71 on Monday. Now, the outlook all the way through March 11th shows us pretty steady at somewhere around 67 to 73. We could even go as high as 75 sometimes in there with mostly sunny skies. That little Punxsutawney Phil could have been wrong with all of this as we see this. Fishing today. What do we call for? Major time today is going to be somewhere around 9 o'clock this morning. We'll call it 9 to 11, the perfect time to fish. The wind's going to be calm, becoming west around 5 miles an hour. Sunrise happened at 6:26 this morning, and sunset rolls in at 5:49. Now, that's our fog there. As we quickly look back over, let me show you what radar looks like before you head out again, because we've got so much fog in the area this morning. We want you to drive extra careful. It's kind of like that Scooby-Doo stuff where you had to almost cut it with your finger. Look at that. All of this. Meridian area has got it down. Equipment heavy around Jackson, Mississippi, and this will change and move throughout the morning through 10 o'clock. So be extremely careful as we look at this. That's what we've got showing up on radar this morning. Be careful, be careful. I can't stress it enough. Odie will be in just a moment. We'll get the day going with all the headlines of what's happening locally, all that's up and coming. So don't miss out on it. It begins at 7 o'clock this morning as we begin this. We certainly hope so. A big thank you to WMOX for joining us this morning as well. If you've got a birthday, anniversary, we'd love to hear from you today. Be cautious, be careful on your travels. We'll tell you about some things that went on. We had someone shot last night, all the events that went on leading up to this. And don't forget the Jubilee going on now, the Pancake Jubilee down at the Temple Theater right now. Hope you can make it by as we talked about that just a little bit ago. It's going on today through 7 p.m. tonight. We'll be back in just a few moments as we begin our day together. Join us, won't you? It all begins at 7 o'clock this morning at the Scotty Ray Report. We'll see you soon. Again, big thanks to WMOX for joining us.
The Scotty Ray Report is brought to you by our following partners.